Am I the asshole for straightening my daughter's hair without my wife's permission? Am I the asshole for straightening my daughter's hair without my wife's permission? I, male 32, have a 4-year-old daughter. Let's call her Gracie. Gracie is half black, her mother, female 31, being African American. Her mother overall handled all of Gracie's hair care and taught me how to do simple styles, but even those simple styles were difficult. My wife ended up going on a vacation with her friends to celebrate her friend's birthday, and my mother came over to visit. I hadn't done Gracie's in a few days, so it became nappy and unmanageable. When I tried to comb her hair, the comb broke. My mother said that I should get my daughter a perm so her hair would be more manageable, so I took her to a salon and got it permed. My wife got home, and when she saw our daughter, she was livid. She screamed at me and then at my mother for even suggesting that, but I think she's overreacting because it's just hair. Then she brought up our wedding. My mother had tried to get my wife to straighten her hair for the wedding, but my wife refused because she wanted her natural hair on her wedding day so she could be as natural as possible. My mother often comments on my wife's and daughter's hair, and I agree with my mother. But now my wife's telling me that perms chemically burn and damage hair to change the texture, and that I damage our daughter's hair. Now she's thinking of getting our daughter's hair cut so her hair can heal from the damages, but I still think she's overreacting. Besides, I don't want my daughter's hair to be cut. She looks so cute now. Am I the asshole for straightening my daughter's hair without my wife's permission, even though Gracie is my daughter too? Edit. I've read the comments and came to a realization about my marriage and my wife, and now I just feel horrible. My wife's mentioned in passing about her childhood and was always vague about it, but after overhearing a conversation between her and my mother-in-law, I just realized how much I truly messed up. My wife is dark-skinned and tall, and she got bullied for that along with her hair. She went to a predominantly white school in Bogalusa, and that made her hate herself and her looks for a while. My God, my wording was horrible too. My wife is beautiful, and so is my daughter, and their hair isn't a problem. I'm the problem, and so is my mother. After hearing my wife's conversations about me and my mother, I realized that my mother's a bully and I'm just a drone follower. My mother constantly picked on my wife, and I just stood by and blindly agreed because she's my mom. But that woman who I married is my wife, and I should have protected her from my own ignorance and my mother's ignorance. I took something she took pride in and belittled it. I was too lazy to learn and took my mother's advice. Hell, my mother said so many cruel things that I didn't think twice of until reading these comments. She'd always make sure my daughter didn't play outside when she'd go over her house because she didn't want her to be darker like her mother, and that comment made me uncomfortable, but I took it as a weird joke. I'm cutting my mother off, and I'm going to apologize to my wife and daughter and start watching hair tutorials again. I'm also going to sign up for a hair braiding class when the pandemic has slowed down once more. God, I'm a horrible husband and father. When my wife is willing to talk to, I won't force her. I'll apologize, and if she wants to leave me over this, it'll hurt like hell, but I'll understand. I've just pushed her to the sidelines for so long and couldn't even see it. I am the asshole. The biggest asshole here. Edit 2. I just got off the phone with my mother. My wife listened in on the phone call. I didn't realize she was in the living room with me until she put her hand on my shoulder during the call. My mother as well, livid. She freaked out on me and threatened to call CPS when I told her I didn't want her coming around my wife and daughter, and refused to even try to understand what we did wrong. Then I mentioned the damage that the perm could cause to my daughter. I read a small article by a black-owned haircare company about childhood perm horror stories along with the history behind perms, and I'm just disgusted with myself and my mother. And my mother said my wife was being a drama queen. When I told her my daughter might need a haircut behind this, she flipped out and said, I won't let my granddaughter look like a bull DKE. And I was mortified. She said she's take my daughter from me and my wife and raise her the way God intended. That caused a screaming match. My wife put her hand on my shoulder in the midst of it and took the phone from home and told my mother if she comes to our home again the police will be called, and then she hung up. I put our baby to bed and then we talked. My daughter and wife are beautiful, and I don't understand how for the life of me I thought those horrible things. Maybe it was like that SNL sketch, Diet Racism. Hearing those things from your parent and just blindly listening no matter how horrible it sounds. My wife is still mad at me, rightfully so, but she told me she isn't leaving me over this. She said I have a lot to learn and that if I want this relationship to last I need to open my eyes and realize that the world I live in is different from the one she lives in and different from the world our daughter will live in. I am horrified at myself and horrified at my mother. My father called a few moments ago but I ignored the call. I'll talk to him in the morning about this. Thank you all for talking some sense into me and I thank my wife for staying with me even though she doesn't have to. Tomorrow we are asking our baby girl if she wants a haircut. Knowing her she'll want to get one like her uncle. He has these cool designs shaved into hide head. If she wants that she can have that. She's my world and I refuse to ever be this ignorant and harmful to her again. Final edit. My wife and I arranged for our daughter to spend the night at my mother-in-law's house and couples therapy will be in the near future. The comment sections have certainly given me many perspectives of how horrible my words and actions are. I won't be doing any more replies or edits because this is a throwaway account. I think that's the right term for this. My mother has called the house multiple times from my sister's phone. My sister is 25 and lives for drama, so now the whole family on my mother's side is blowing up my phone with many mixed opinions, most of which are horrible. It's funny, the only family member whose opinion reflects this comment section's common consensus is the one who was disowned a few months ago. Well, actually that's not funny. It shows how messed up my family is. Thank you all for these replies no matter how harsh or mean they might seem. I needed this. Your daughter is half black. You're married to a black person and you used the words nappy and unmanageable. Besides that, you sound like you haven't learned how to care for your daughter's hair nor tried to learn how to care for curly, coily hair. Not to mention, it sounds like you haven't learned to respect your wife's boundaries. You are the asshole. Go watch a couple of videos on curly hair and stop listening to your mom. You are the asshole. You lost me at nappy hair. What an asshole. And your wife is right. All you did was damage your daughter's hair. You are the asshole. My mother often comments on my wife's and daughter's hair and I agree with my mother. TF is wrong with you and your mother. Are you saying that her hair is ugly? Both you and your mother are very much ta. Dude, you married a black woman and have a bald black child and you hardly even learned to care for her hair. And instead of trying to learn more you go behind your wife's back with your mother, who has a history of shaming your wife's natural hair, and take your daughter who is 4 to get a perm. Perms if done wrong can seriously phalange hair, and if your wife is saying your daughter's hair is damaged, then it's damaged. How would you know? You never really bothered to learn to care for it anyways. And your mother just sounds horrible and even racist. You need to apologize to your wife and your daughter and let your wife do what she thinks is right for your daughter's hair care. You are the asshole. Yes, you are the asshole. It's not just hair. You did this the second your wife couldn't stop you. She now knows she cannot leave her child in your hands because you will do whatever you want the second her back is turned. You have destroyed her trust in you. Seriously, when you get married, you're supposed to care more for your wife than your mother. I think that you will end up divorced because your wife is realizing that you care more about pleasing your mother than your marriage and child. You're basically calling your wife and daughter ugly. You should realize that. You said, cute now, which means you thought she was ugly before. You are the asshole. You are the asshole and probably should not be with someone who is black if you don't appreciate black people. Do you know who is best placed to understand the care that is involved with a black person's hair? That's right. A black person. You are the asshole. Your mother is an asshole too. For many black people, particularly of African and Caribbean heritage, it is not just hair, it's their pride. You are the asshole. So, you didn't do your daughter's hair for days, which caused your issue to start with. And then the second it was at all difficult to sort out your toddler's hair you just said fuck it and did something you knew your wife wouldn't like? Even before you permed and straightened her hair you were an asshole. Who doesn't take the time to help their 4-year-old child with her hair every day? Am I the asshole for wanting a female stripper at my bachelorette party? Throwaway account because my other has some personal details. My 22 female, fiancé, 24 male, are getting married soon. We've recently been planning our bachelor and bachelorette parties with our friends, and the discussion of strippers came up. He wanted one, so I said no problem. He then jokingly asked if I wanted one too, and I actually agreed. I did in fact want one. He had no problem with that until I said that I'd also want a female stripper like him, rather than the male one he assumed I wanted. That's when the argument started. I'm bisexual, which my fiancé has known about pretty much since we met, and it's never been an issue before. I've been with women and men before, and I just personally would prefer a woman over a man. I told him if he could have a female stripper then so could I. He said it would be different, but wouldn't explain me to how, just insisted that it wasn't right for me to have one. I've talked to a couple of our friends about this and they're divided, Some on my side saying it doesn't matter the gender of the stripper when I'm attracted to them both. The other saying the same as my fiancé that it's different. One of my friends said that if I had a woman, that would basically be saying I'd rather be with a woman than him, which I honestly just find stupid. So Reddit, am I the asshole for wanting a female stripper? Edit. There's a lot of comments and questions, and I don't think I'd have the time to answer them all individually, so I've tried to answer them as best I can here. 1. So some people seem to be confused as to my wording of, prefer a woman over a man. I meant a woman stripper, not that in general I would prefer to be with a woman. In fact, I'm pretty evenly split in finding women and men attractive. Just in the context of a stripper, I would rather a woman. 2. After reading a lot of the comments, I realize mine and my fiancé's issues run a lot deeper than the gender of a stripper, and so I'm going to talk to him about it properly when he comes home. When we first dated, we talked a lot about my sexuality and what that would mean for us in the relationship, but recently it hasn't been a topic for conversation. For me, it obviously affects my life, but I think for him it had become a, don't talk about it, don't think about it, thing, which it really shouldn't have become. I will discuss any insecurities he may have about our relationship and see about trying to fix them. 3. He is most definitely not homophobic, really. I think this just took him by surprise because we don't talk about it often. His best friend and best man is gay, and the one who introduced us. He has never seemed to have an issue with my bisexuality, or anyone else's sexuality before this, which is why I wanted to know if there was maybe something I wasn't seeing. 4. Those worried about how the other guests will feel. How many friends I have who are queer. I have many queer friends, a lot of whom will be at said bachelorette party. They would have no issue with a female stripper. The same with my straight friends, they would have no issue. The friends who have the issue with it are the mutual friends my fiancé and I share, and some of his. 5. The people suggesting we both have two strippers, honestly might be onto something. He said it would be different, but wouldn't explain me to how. Just insisted that it wasn't right for me to have one. Ha 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 ha. I'm sorry, that's hilarious. Not the asshole. And you're right about finding what your friend said stupid. There's literally no difference in him getting a female stripper and you getting one. The only thing that's obvious here is that your fiancé is a bit insecure about you leaving him for a woman down the road. Edit. Hijacking my original comment to drop some love for Rain. Donate if you can. Dear Lord, your fiancé is full of double standards. Not the asshole, but seriously, arguing over something like this right before the wedding should give ya some red flags. Not the asshole. It sounds like the difference in his mind is that for him a female stripper is one last hurrah before spending the rest of his life with you, and for you it's one last chance to change your mind before spending the rest of your life with a man. If he can't see the difference between you choosing him and you choosing his gender, that's a big ol' red flag that's completely on him. Not the asshole. And #X200B. Tell him either both get the stripper they want, or neither can. And #X200B. He is fine not to like it, and you are fine to do it anyway. But if he is that insecure and controlling to really makes an issue out of it, cancel the bachelorette party. And the wedding. NTA, but keep in mind of your fiancé's reaction, that's a red flag. So he most likely didn't take your attraction for women seriously and or is insecure. But you have your right, you were honest and said you prefer women over men. TBH, he should be happy, because if you said that then it means you obviously love him more because naturally you prefer women. But red flag with him and with the people siding with him. It's a stripper, like it's not that serious. Not the asshole. Your fiancé and your friends that agree with him are being biphobic. They're also being major hypocrites. Why is it okay for your fiancé to have a stripper that's a gender he's attracted to but you can't? It's wrong to assume that just because you want a female stripper, then there's some hidden message that you'd rather be with a woman than your fiancé. IDKY. But when it comes to bi women, men get super concerned that they are going to leave them for a woman. I guess that's a bigger slap to their ego. Get whatever gender stripper you want, and if your fiancé continues to make a fuss, then say you either both get to have a stripper of your choice or neither of you do. Not the asshole, and his reaction is a bit of a red flag. Sounds like he's insecure about your bisexuality. It's fine for you to have a male stripper, but not right to have a female stripper. Is he afraid seeing a woman strip is going to make you realize you like women more and leave him? Smells like biphobia, babe. You're gonna have to get to the bottom of this and get him to work out his issues before the wedding. I don't understand what difference would it make if you pick a male or female stripper, so I would say not the asshole. Am I the asshole for refusing to eat food after the meal was eaten without me? Hey everyone. Throwaway account here because I'm pretty sure the people involved in this story know my main. Recently, my father returned home from overseas after spending several years away and the whole family, extended included, got together to throw a party to celebrate his return. Clean up the house, put up decorations, cook a banquet, the works. I myself took some time off to drive around town to get the supplies, blow up balloons, hang decorations and even assisted my mother in the preparations for cooking. Among the dishes my mother was making was a rather special one for me as I have good memories of eating it with my dad, so I was pretty excited to eat it alongside everyone else. Problem is, the day my dad landed at the airport, myself and a few others were supposed to go and get him, but at the last second, we all remembered that my dad adored a certain pastry that's only made by a bakery across the city. Wanting to make the day perfect, I volunteered to go and grab it even though it'd probably take an hour and a half. Well, through a series of misfortunes, it ended up taking several hours to get there and by then the store was closed. Thankfully, we knew the owners and I called and begged him to open, which he did, so I was able to obtain the pastry. I called home and told everyone that I'd gotten it and to wait until I got back so we could all eat together. When I got home, I found the food was over, with everyone having drinks. Unfortunately, the food I'd been wanting to eat alongside my father had been eaten by everyone else. My mother had saved me a minute portion of the meal, however. After the heartwarming reunion with my dad and while catching up with him, my mother offered me the food she'd saved, but I refused it and claimed I wasn't hungry. For the life of me, I just didn't want a single bite of any of the food that had been prepared. Instead, I just gave the pastry to my dad as a surprise and refused to take a bite of that either. Overall, it was still a great time, except for my mother constantly asking and eventually begging me to at least have 1 or 2 bites, with everyone else also asking me to eat. My mother privately confided in me that she understood I was peeved, but she'd spent so long making it and if me, her only child, wasn't eating it, she'd feel like she'd done all that hard work for nothing, even if everyone else had eaten. I told her that I wasn't mad at all and that I just wasn't hungry. To be honest, I'm pretty sure that was just bullshit to guilt me into eating. I wouldn't take a single bite of that food, or anything else really, for the rest of the day. I suppose I was angry at everyone having been thoughtless enough to have started eating without me even when I'd asked them not to. Instead, I just let my displeasure be felt and not heard. Am I the asshole? Edit. I should clarify that the food was to be eaten at dinner. I left at 4 and got back by 8, while dinner is usually around 7:30. My dad got home at 5 and everyone had snacks. At 6:30 I called and told them I'd gotten the pastry and told them to wait until I got back cause dinner would have been served in 30 minutes, and they all gave their assent. You are the asshole. You're making your dad's homecoming about you. It was noticeable and likely awkward if everyone noticed and spoke to you. There's no reason you couldn't have eaten while sitting by your dad. You are the asshole. You were being petty. By your own words, it took you several hours to get there and then you had to call the owners. Was your family supposed to wait several hours to eat? Sounds like you were being a drama queen. You are the asshole. Your dad just came back from overseas and you wanted him to wait just for you to come back so he can eat? This day was supposed to be more about your celebrating your father coming home and less about you. Super childish to refuse to eat out of spite and probably ruining the mood for everyone there just because you didn't get your way. You are the asshole. You took hours to do a task that should have taken half an hour. You expected everyone to sit there hungry, while the food got cold, because you had a bad idea and didn't bother to find out this business's hours beforehand? This is what is referred to as cutting off your nose to spite your face. You were several hours late and expected everyone, your dad included, to wait to eat. Your mom was nice enough to make sure to save you a portion and you refused out of pure spite. Who benefited from that? Certainly not you. You ruined your own mood. You are the asshole, but mostly to yourself. Not asshole for not eating food, but you are the asshole for doing it out of what seems like spite. Now what you set out to make a perfect day for your dad is shadowed by your behavior. You should have at least shared the pastry with your dad like you initially intended. You are the asshole. The guy was probably hungry after his flight. It's unfortunate you were delayed and couldn't eat together, but not eating out of spite was just really petty. I volunteered to go and grab it even though it'd probably take an hour and a half. You are the asshole. You wanted everyone else to hold off on food because it was taking you longer than you expected. Why is everyone else expected to remain hungry as well? Your mom was looking out for you too. She wanted to have something to eat, but you decided to be petty about that and refused the food. You're coming off as immature here. Would I be the asshole for kicking out my roommate and keeping her cat? Trying to keep this short because honestly I'm so tired. These past few days have been hell. Basically I moved into an apartment with my best friend of 15 years. I am on my first official month here and shit has already gone sideways. She pretended to send our landlords her security deposit and then went out of town so they let me move in as I had given them my half in person. She finally gets back, they start hounding her for her half, and I end up paying it after she assures me she'll pay it back. Needless to say so far I've paid for everything in the apartment, along with first month's rent and the pet fee for her cat. I don't expect to see a dime, especially after I found out that she's been lying to me about having a job for months. First her grandmother told me and then I called the company and they had no record of her ever working there. I feel like I'm totally justified in kicking her out, though I have yet to actually tell her because she's been at her boyfriend's the past 4 days and I'm waiting for my landlord to tell me how to change the lock. Here's the part where I may be in the wrong. She has the sweetest little 4-month-old kitten that she doesn't take care of. He's bonded more with me in the past week than he has with her in months. When I first brought him to the apartment while she was out of town he was infested with fleas. When I texted her about it she said she got rid of them with his last bath. Poor thing literally had blood all over his fur from them biting him. I gave him a dawn bath and got him at $60 flea collar the next morning. Another thing she has not paid me back for. He also hasn't been neutered. I am almost positive he's had no shots, and as I said she's been at her boyfriend's house for the past 4 days so I've been the only one taking care of him. In that time he's run out of wet food so I've been giving him my kitten's food. I've had a lot of people tell me that I should just keep the cat but I don't think anyone understands how hard it is to find out that someone I've trusted for 15 years has lied and screwed me over like this. I can't help but have a soft spot so I've been thinking that I'm going to tell her I need the $60 for the collar and the $60 for 2 months of the pet fee before I give him back, and if she drags her feet I'm getting him neutered ASAP so I have medical records to say that he's mine. This whole thing's been a shit show and I don't know if I'm doing the right thing or feeling the fire. But I know that her grandma's gonna end up taking care of that cat and while that's better, she still isn't the best with them. So would I be the asshole if I kicked her out and kept her cat? Edit. I want to add that she doesn't abuse the cat, and I believe she loves him, but he doesn't have a feeding schedule, he's not neutered, he was covered in fleas, and she's left him in my care for the past 4 days. So whatever love she has for him isn't enough to genuinely care for his well-being. I'm only okay with letting her take him because I know that if she can't be responsible he will at least be taken care of by her gram. He won't be abused or have a bad life, just not the one he deserves. Usually I'd frown on taking somebody's cat. But it doesn't sound like she's going to do any better at taking care of him in the future than she does now. So for the cat's sake, yes, take the cat. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. Keep the cat. If she threatens legal action call her bluff, she clearly has no money. Worse that can happen is police show up and force you to give her the cat if she has documentation, which I'm assuming she does not. Taking a neglected animal away from its owner is fine emo. I have literally stolen an abused animal before and I would do it again. On a side note, I don't understand how people misjudge their friend's character this much. I have never had any problems like this with any friend because I know their character. Poor character friends were dumped and forgotten a long time ago. You said you knew her for 15 years? She gave no indication of being a moochy sociopath in her whole 15 years? Emo, change the locks and take the cat. Not the asshole. She is obviously unwilling to care for the animal and you are a good human who is. Boot her ass to the curb, keep the cat and see if the relationship is even salvageable. Not the asshole. She's very irresponsible and the cat won't be taken care of if it ends up back in her hands. If she presses you for the cat, give her a taste of her own medicine and lie and tell her you surrendered it to a shelter. I doubt she'd do the work or pay the fee to get it back. Cut her off and go and see. Not the asshole, get him neutered and get a pet license and a microchip. She will have literally no recourse to say the animal is hers. Anyone that doesn't provide basic care for a pet isn't going to spend money on registering them. Not the asshole. Keep the cat if you can. He deserves better than her. Not the asshole. I understand that it's hard to lose a long-term friendship like that, and you may be super disappointed and upset, but you are basically sustaining her and that's not your responsibility. Also, keep the cat please, poor thing needs some love and affection and I don't think they'll get it from your friend. Not the asshole. She owes you money and pets are legally property. She can get her property back when she has repaid what she owes you.